Questions are being raised about the integrity of the Matric exam and marking process after the Basic Education Minister, Siviwe Gwarube, confirmed that 2 officials from the National Department of Education have been suspended with immediate effect. This follows a serious breach that saw Matric exam papers and a memorandum leaked to learners in and around Pretoria. The minister says the irregularity was picked up by markers during the early stages of the national marking process, prompting a swift investigation. The leak affected 7 schools in one Pretoria area, with just over 20 learners implicated, and the papers were traced back to the DBE and an employee who allegedly distributed them through a USB device. A National Investigative Task Team has now been established, and Umalusi has been notified as the department works to safeguard the credibility of the 2025 Matric results. That's one story. The other one, AfriForum at the same time and several media organizations have secured a High Court victory, allowing the continued public release of Matric results using examination numbers only. The ruling handed down yesterday by the full bench of the High Court in Pretoria confirms that publishing results in this manner does not violate the Protection of Personal Information Act, POPIA. The court ruled that examination numbers provide sufficient protection of learners' identities while ensuring public access to the results. Let's discuss both stories. I'm joined by the DBE, Department of Basic Education's Communications and Research Acting Director, Terence Kala, and Alana Bailey, Head of Cultural Affairs at AfriForum. Good afternoon to the both of you. Terence, let me start with you. This leak that came through of the exam papers and the marking memorandum, what further detail are you able to add around that, the work that you're doing to investigate and fully establish the extent of the leak and the extent to which it may have contaminated the exam process?
Thank you so much, Silas. Good afternoon to yourself, and good afternoon to Alana on the other end of the call. I think you've managed to articulate quite a lot of the steps that have been taken, but I think what's important is just to extrapolate the work really of the National Investigative Task Team, which also includes universities of South Africa. It includes SACWA, it includes our teacher unions, as well as forensic private investigators. And I think that composition is really going to allow the team to really confirm the exact source of the breach, verify the extent and the spread of it. I think our preliminary investigations have shown us that it isn't a widespread breach. It is, as mentioned, contained within the Pretoria area, but it is also important for us to also look at what the recommendations and measures to further safeguard the NSC can come from this. Obviously, it is something that is disappointing, having gone through such a really constructive and positive examination process, having concluded marking yesterday. I think a breach of this nature is one that also allows us to commend the work of the markers. I mean, it's important to also identify the fact that it was them that spotted this anomaly. It was them that spotted the fact that it was in fact a examination guideline that was leaked, and that's where the major breach came. And I think what gives us further confidence is the fact that the manner in which this was distributed allows us to believe further that it was more contained, and that's what our initial investigations are telling us. But we do look forward to the work of the NITT as well.
Yeah, say a bit more about that work of the National Investigative Task Team, Terence. What exactly is their mandate that they're supposed to fulfill? What are they probing?
Look, I mean, the more important thing is to confirm the exact source of that breach. I think they need to help us also verify the extent and the spread of that leakage. I think, like I'm saying, our initial investigations are telling us one thing, but I think the work of that private investigative, forensic investigator will also assist us, but also recommendations for future safeguarding. And I think it's all about strengthening the future security of the exam system. For us, it's something that we look into at the beginning of every year as we plan our examination processes. We continuously want to make sure that we really strengthen the processes through which our examinations are administered. And this will further strengthen that desire. And we look forward to the work of the task team having been given such a strong mandate.
Yeah, and lastly, if I stick with you for just a moment, and lastly for now at least, Terence, assure those of us who are saying fairness is a key principle in how you administer exams, and where you have 7 pupils from 7 schools having had access to not only the question paper, but the marking memorandum, and you believe it was contained. You believe, I underline that. You don't know for sure how contained it was. And how can you assure us that the fairness was preserved when some pupils clearly had an advantage that the rest of the pupils in the Tshwane area, across Gauteng, across the country, simply did not have?
Sure. I think just one point of clarity is just to indicate that it was a marking memorandum and not necessarily the examination scripts themselves. I think what's important to give members of the public pure confidence, I mean, the candidates themselves. I mean, learners who wrote honestly will not be compromised by this. I think, like we're saying, that we do genuinely believe that this was a contained leak. And obviously, with that aspect, is these young people are now going through an investigative process. I mean, the DBE officials have been suspended. The system itself has moved swiftly to take action against those. I mean, cheating will always be detected. That's the one thing that we believe. Our system is rigorous and is strengthened, has been strengthened by the tests that it's been facing over the past couple of years, and the strength and the rigor through which the department has continued to improve its systems will ensure that, that parents and members of the public can trust that our multi-layered system and our practices, they protect the integrity of the National Senior Certificate examinations.
Alana Bailey, before we delve into the issue around the matric exams and the results being published in the national newspapers, I believe this is an area that you watch very closely, falls within your portfolio at AfriForum. Just your overall thoughts about this leak?
Well, we are very happy to see that the department dealt so rapidly and decisively with the issue, and we are also looking forward to the work of the task team. I think the moment when the media conference of the minister was announced, we were being contacted by matriculants and their parents who said, please don't tell us we have to write the whole exam over again. And by others saying, but will our results be trustworthy? Will we still qualify for bursaries and for studies locally or overseas? So that just proves how a leak like this also adds a lot of stress to matriculants and their families at this time when they should really be relaxing after the exams. And because your matriculation results are so crucial, it's very important to know that they are trustworthy and above question. So we are looking forward to any measures, and we hope that strong punitive measures will be taken against the perpetrators to deter others from following the same bad route.
Yeah. So let's talk then about why you were in court and the outcome that has come through. So it appears to be a victory on your side. Do you consider it a victory? What was the alternative that was on the table as far as the department was concerned?
Well, it's a victory for us, but also for Terence and the Department of Basic Education. So for once we were on the same side in a court case. This case comes from 2021-2022, when initially the Department of Basic Education wanted to prohibit the publication of the matric results, and matriculants approached us, said they feel it's crucial for them to have access to their results on a public platform. And at that time, the court ordered the Department of Basic Education to publish the results henceforth. And then in 2024, in other words, last year, the information regulator issued an order to the Department of Basic Education to say that the results cannot be published any longer, as the privacy of the learners will be compromised if it happens. And the department was in a very unenviable position, because on the one hand they had to obey the court order, but on the other hand also the instruction of the information regulator. So we were added as a party to the court case about this whole issue because of our involvement in 2021-2022. And the court then ruled yesterday in the judgment that was delivered yesterday that once the information is released on a public platform, but with examination numbers and not with names, that would provide adequate protection to the privacy of the learners.
Yeah. Why is this an important element, Alana, if I stick with you? The publishing of matric results, is it merely about convenience of pupils and their parents being able to access results as soon as they are out, no matter where they are, unable to go to a district office or a school, that ability, or is it also about the system as a whole, just to mark a significant educational milestone and a tradition? And to what extent does that tradition continue to be valuable?
The tradition definitely is very important to people, and we learned that already in 2021 with the learners approaching us. But then, as you say, also the fact that some people cannot have access to their results on any other platform apart from the public platforms like the newspapers or the online news channels. And then this case is also quite important because we have not seen high-level legal action about the POPIA Act yet. So the whole issue of when something is in the interest of the public and when something shouldn't be revealed because of people's rights to privacy, and finding a balance between the two sides has never been really argued comprehensively in court. And I think because of that, this is a case that will be a kind of a watershed for many people who are trying to protect privacy or who have to protect the rights of the public to have access to news and information.
All right. Let me end it off with you, Terence. What does this judgment mean for you, but also just the understandings of that balance between public information, access to this information by the candidates and their parents versus the concerns around protection of privacy? The fact that the information regulator had a different understanding suggests to me that while the case has settled the matter, at least for now, there must be a further conversation that must be had between the role players, between yourselves and the information regulator, surely.
No, certainly, and I think it emphasizes the importance of continued collaboration as well. I think the most important thing is to protect the people of South Africa, and we respect the mandate of the information regulator. For us, it's just about providing really like critical legal clarity around whether we can be able to publish the results. I mean, we always stood behind the fact that the publishing of the examination numbers didn't constitute a breach, and we appreciate the fact that the court has stood with us in that. And I think it's important for us to also maintain that openness and the access for the candidates. Remember, they are the ones that took part in these examinations. These results do belong to them. So it's important that we make that accessible to them in a way that they have always found easily accessible. And we believe that in moving forward, we'll continue to find positive ways to continue to work with other institutions of government, including the information regulator as well.
All right. I've got to thank both of you for coming through and having these conversations with me. Terence Kala is the Department of Basic Education's Communications and Research Acting Director, and also Alana Bailey, Head of Cultural Affairs at AfriForum. This is the Week in Review on SABC News. On the other side of this break, there were six names in the hat for the next National Director of Public Prosecutions. The President will either pick one from those six, and who knows, maybe announce a very different name. Who knows? We'll talk about how the process went and what its implications are for one of the critical institutions of our democracy. That and more still to come.